Hey everybody, welcome to Book of Katherine. If you are new to my channel, this is normal. Ask somebody in the comments below why I'm like this. So anyway, I was out. One of the best parts about starting to go out and do things more that there is a good side is meeting people that just meeting strangers. I have not had the ability to meet a stranger in so long. I can't even begin to tell you. Everyone that I get to meet is someone that either my husband knows from work or my friends already know from there. I've been introduced. They already know me in some capacity. Or they know me from my channel and then they get through. So they know me. Like, that's the thing, is that I haven't met any strangers who don't know who I am. Like I told you, it really freaked me out when I was talking to my neighbor and we were getting to know each other. And then one day I come by, he's like, "Oh, I hear that you're a writer." And I was just like, "Where did you hear that from?" Because if you think about it, we tell everything out there to no one that we know, and then which is really like all that we tell it to China, we tell it to Iran, we tell it to the Afghanis, we tell it to everyone, because it's not going to anyone but to 150 people really, unless you get really lucky and you break that outer wall, that shadow banning wall. And then you other than that, but you never really get to meet them or whatever. The good part about starting to get out again, I didn't realize how I loved meeting people. I loved meeting strangers and I loved talking to them. And so one of the best parts of slowly getting to go out again is meeting strangers, kind of like getting to know the people that lived around me. But now I'm going beyond that. So let me give you the example. I am now going to get dentists, like I told you, getting dental work. And they got and it was sitting in a dentist chair. You're in that dentist chair, and there are the doctors that I meet all the time, and I get to know them, and they're great, and you have to pick your doctors or whatever. Dentists are different. You're in that chair for a long time, and you're up close and personal. And then my husband has to come with me, and we have to do all these bolsters and everything, so I literally stick out like a sore thumb, because I'm wearing my onesies. Like, we've learned to just wear my onesies to get through the appointment. And so I walk in wearing this huge, like, pink or blue or like with hearts all over it. They don't make onesies for like adult whatsoever. All the onesies, they need to start making like grown-up looking onesies. I got to go out shopping with my husband for shoes. I made him do it. I got to go out with him grocery shopping, when I tweeted out the gorgeous dark sky, and he came back and he's like, "How you doing?" And I was like in too much pain to actually leave the parking lot. I was like in so much pain. I was like, "We can't leave the parking lot." I was like, perfect opportunity. There's a shoe store there and you need to get shoes that protect your feet from all the wood. We now know the weather enough here. And I was like, "You need shoes that protect it." So I go in there though with him, because he's like, "Otherwise he'll get the cheap shoes." And I'm like, "No, like I need you, like if something drops on his foot, we're done. Like, that's it. Like, we're on the East Coast. It's not like California where, you can just walk 3 feet and there's a neighbor, or walk 3 feet in any direction and there's a neighbor to help you. No, 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 no. If we have a problem, neither of us can walk, the half a mile we need to get to see anyone, or the 3 miles. It would just not be a good thing. And so I'm like, no, you get the thing. We ended up getting a shoe that actually had a toe protector. Oh my gosh, I thought you only did that for work rooms. And then we had to really think through it, and it was like, no, we actually need that for out here. So, because if he drops wood on his foot, it's all over. So, but I was in the store, and what I was going to ask them to hold on to the pair of shoes that he had chosen, while that he put everything else away, because we had a ton of shoes everywhere or whatever. And I was healthy enough to do that. It was so nice. Like, I was in a real store doing real shopping. Fantastic. But I go to turn on the shoes, and I'm waiting for the girl that's in line paying for shoes. And she turns around, and I'm just standing there, because I wasn't planning going out that night. I was just planning to survive the car trip. So, and I am like head to toe in this like Pepto-Bismol pink onesie. And it's normal for me. I haven't been out enough to get used to it. And in doctor's offices, I guess they're used to it because they don't react. I show up, and my dentist has been really great. They know my problems and stuff like that. So here, if it's my first time in a normal store and I just don't care, I'm so used to onesies, I'm just like, I don't care. I've even done videos in the onesies and I still have not gone into public. It's like 2 years later, a year later, or whatever, and I show up and she turns around and she just stops and goes, and I was like, wow, I've been one-upped. I'm so used to being one-upped by guys. And from dancing, you know what I mean? And from living in LA, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Living in Southern California. I remember walking home from school even, and if you walk by a construction site, you got really, did it, you, when you were young, like it was really, I understand that a lot better now, but oh my gosh, it was really, really bad. And it wasn't like that before. And it was just so like, oh my gosh, I had to get really, really thick skin about being went up. We just did a count last night. We were counting the some girls and I in our one of our friend circles or whatever. We started counting up the number of times that we've been actually touched or what they would clarify as sexual assault. And we were walking through it and what this and that and and I was like, I don't think we really acknowledge like how much we actually experience it, what we trade off for our freedoms. Like in Islam, you get covered up this way, and before it was like you had to marry a husband by the time you're 16 or 18 to be protected from this sort of thing. And then we did women's lib and everything like that. And so we do these trade-offs. And and when we we trust public schools to take care of our kids, you're no longer living on the farm. Like, what are the trade-offs of all that, of having education and getting educated instead of staying at home and just staying on a farm and not being educated? Have we really, and then putting boys and girls together in a schoolroom and whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, by the time I hit 18, I had been, molested or assaulted 6 times. And I didn't even realize it was that much. It may be more. Like, I'm still trying to work on my memory. But you don't realize it. I think as women, we just don't realize it. And we, because we don't talk about it. We just, so we were trying to make an effort to talk about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had been touched. Or, oh my gosh, no, there's a 7th. There's a 7th, and it was one of the worst. 8th, and an 8th time. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I'm really used to being one-upped. I mean, like, 2 boys stopped me, like, right on my way home from school and just were like, see, watch what I can do to her, and just like put their hands all. I had no defenses. No one had taught me defenses. So like, I didn't know. I was walking home alone because back then you let your kids walk home alone, and I didn't have a safe home because my dad had touched me. And from our group we were talking, it doesn't say, they say, oh, if you've been molested, then you'll attract molestation. And we actually went through in our group, and it was like that didn't come out in at least my group of friends anyway. That statistic didn't hold true. Like those of us who weren't, molested when younger or by our family members and stuff like that, that every one of the group across the line had just had incidents with guys grabbing us. You know what I mean? Just guys grabbing us. And the fact of the matter is that are we going to trade it off? Is it something we want to trade off for the things that, and it just comes down to, there's just bad. There's bad in the world, and you have to teach people how to deal with it. You got to teach your kids to be ready and know what to look for and how to speak up and how to say something, how to report things, who to report to it. Like today, you can't just go to a police department and report it. Today, you have to get a lawyer to press charges. Like that's something that I learned in the last week. Anyway, all of that's to say, I found out how like it was to be in a pink Pepto-Bismol thing in public. So it's kind of fun going out in public. So my dentist chair, they got a new guy working at my dentist's office. And when I went for this last thing that they were doing, the dentist was really busy because COVID's starting to loosen up. And so everyone's coming in with their like, oh my gosh, my dental problems, because people have, let me tell you, when your teeth are bad, it's bad. And I have learned that. I have learned how much pain your teeth can give you, how much pain my teeth have been giving me. And I wasn't aware of it because my body was so bad. And now that my body's getting healed up, my teeth are like screaming. And I'm like, oh, because of all my grinding from the pain every night. I would grind so bad. I'm grinding my fillings out. That's how bad my pain is. Like I'm grinding my fillings out at night. And so we're having to deal with that. So I'm sitting in the dentist chair, and so this time I was much better, like I was much healthier, whatever. I've been getting to know the guy, and my husband's there, whatever. And usually I can't have any talking because of my FND. And I just can't handle that much input. Like, we have to dim down the sunlight. We got to put glasses on me. We put a hat on me. We just really try to take out all the sensory so that I can just focus on, like, just so I can handle the pain plus them in my mouth without me going into an episode. That's the whole goal. So we have all these bolsters. So I was doing better and they were taking off. And so I was able to actually do some talking and have some crosstalk. And so I got talking to the guy, and it was kind of funny, like, things have changed a lot in, like, the 10 years since I had the accident. I had the accident in 2011, and then I tanked in 2013. So it's 2013 to 2020. So I guess it's 7 years since I left humanity. 2013 is when I disappeared from, like, I just went into the dark. Like, I was going down in 2011 and started seeing less and less of people. And then 2013, I remember I was on so many boards. I was on the board of so many things. And I remember finally, like, 2013, like the January 2013, I had to, like, finally give my final, like, and just give my final, like, 2013, I just had to say goodbye. Like, I was like, I have to resign. It was so bad. And so now I'm, like, it was so hard to do that. You have no idea. But I was like, I can't. Something's wrong. Something really bad is happening to me. I don't know what. And so as I'm slowly evening out or whatever, I'm like, oh, the world is really different. Like, the world is really, really different. And luckily I'm ready for it because I've been online, and you can see how much online is affecting the world. So I was talking to this guy, and he had told me he did the Beachbody workout the last time that we were there. So I turned to this time and I was like, so do you watch the UFC? Because he said he told me how much working out that he does. Like, he's really into, like, doing all this bodybuilder and everything like this. And so I was like, okay, so do you watch UFC? And he's like, oh, no, I don't do that. And I was like, oh, no, you don't. Because all the UFC guys, they're like, we're household names. They have these numbers. And I'm like, oh, okay, you don't actually do UFC. And he's like, no, that's not for me. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't really know what to say to that because I'm not that good at talking yet, conversing with someone I have never met and who is a stranger. And also you have to remember that I have to be very protective. I don't, influencers will understand this life for me, for you guys, but I also cannot go out there saying, hey, I'm an influencer. I can't go out there and say that. I can't go out there and say, I'm an influencer, I have a big thing. I cannot let that on at all. I have to go out into public now. This is also a thing I have to do now. I have to go out in public now and, like, act like I have no public voice. It's so important. I have to be like Wallflower. I really do. I have to just be like, who am I? I don't know. But I know that I don't, because I cannot, it will put me in so much jeopardy. Like, it will put me in so much jeopardy to start. You don't even know because everyone wants to talk about and that gets around in town. As you saw, like, I don't even know where my next door neighbor heard that I was a writer. And I realized, like, oh, he might think I'm a writer from Twitter, or might think I'm a writer of books or whatever. I don't know. I still don't know how he heard I was a writer. I still don't. I was like, I haven't told anyone. I don't know how anyone knows. Maybe the guy that came and worked in our house and he saw my books on my bookshelf. Maybe. Like, that's all I can think of. You know what I mean? And so, but if someone doesn't know, it's a really great place to be when people don't know. And you don't want to tell them. If you ever get to the place where you cannot go to a coffee shop without everyone there going, hey, how you do? And you're like, oh God, like, you don't know them and they know you. I don't know if you've ever been in that position. It's a very weird position. It was great when I did dancing or when I did consulting, and that was fantastic. Like, even once I did a little bit of modeling or whatever, and that, like, got, like, and people, that was the closest it came to, is when I did modeling. People were like, hey, I know you from that. And I was just like, oh God, because that was uncomfortable. I didn't enjoy that because I didn't know where the image had been used or for what or for who and who they thought I represented. And I I'd kind of be like off, if that makes sense. It's really hard to explain. Because I think some people want to go into public life to be loved. That's not what it is at all. At all. It's not. People relate to you and want to talk to you about one thing, and you don't know what to talk to them about. You're like, well, I don't know what your starting point. I don't know what your impression is of me. I don't know where to start. And it's harder to connect with people all of a sudden. It's really fantastic when two people come together and they know nothing about each other and they get to literally start from point A and B and just be like, let's get to know each other. I love that. I love that. And so this was happening with the guy in the chair. And now there's a new thing where I have to be like, I have to hide a whole part of my life, which is this life here. I have to keep all of that quiet. Does that make sense? And that's a new skill I'm having to learn. So I'm sitting in the chair, and so here's what he says. So he's like, not the UFC. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like trying to think through like what to say. Like I was like trying, if I didn't know, I haven't done enough conversating yet with doctors. You don't conversate like this. So I was like, what do I think? And then he just all of a sudden says, oh, reality TV is more my thing. And I was like, oh, like that's the other kind of TV. And I guess that's the thing, is that I'm always on YouTube, so I don't know what the section, whatever. And I was like, oh, reality TV or whatever. And he's like, yeah, like I'm such a household person. And it's so, or a housewives. And I was like, oh, housewives. And then I was like, again, I can't say anything because I was like, crap. Like I had to work after doing a bunch of counseling in California. I had learned about the drama triangle and with addiction, and I learned about the drama triangle, and then I learned like the drama triangle of like victim, rescuer, persecutor. And I was like, I started to notice that as I was trying to stay out of that and become an adult and not play one of those roles and start being an adult and be my own independent self, which meant never switching into one of those roles, which is how I was raised to always play the victim, persecutor, or rescuer, which I was definitely play the rescuer, but you never ever play one. If you live in that drama triangle or raised in it, you are always switching. You're always taught to switch, because if something bad, you go victim, and you have to, when someone's come out of the drama triangle is when they're able to own their crap. They're able to come out of something and said, yeah, I did this and I didn't do this. And when stuff went bad, here's my part of it. Looking back, here's my part of it. When it would be so easy for them to say, I'm a victim. The whole world says you're a victim, and you're like, no, I am an adult. I am adult. I have choices, and I chose these things. I made these decisions. This was not good, but I made these decisions. What decisions can I make in the future to make it not happen? There's this like the whole thing that you start doing when you start growing up and become your own individual. And the thing is that housewives made it very difficult because they hire people who are addicted and in addictive systems. You can see it. They will only hire it. Like they actually said they fired somebody, and someone off the first seasons of Atlanta, and they gave a quote for the magazines. They said she's too human. It says it all. They only hire sociopaths. Like that's all they want is sociopaths. If you look into everyone, like even some of my people who had been favorites, it turned out there's like money laundering. There's all these awful, awful charges with the police beforehand. They knew about it and they hired him for that. Does that make sense? Like, so their charities are total rackets. It's just all, and I didn't know any of that when I did it. I just noticed like all these people are like it. The whole episode is drama triangle, and it was so hard to get off of that show. But I was like, if I don't, because it's like all I was watching, I was like, if I don't, I'm never, ever actually going to get healthy myself. And it was so freaking hard. But I was tired. I had gotten to the point in my life, and I guess I was getting sick, which kind of makes you grow up. The pain makes you grow up. And I was like, in a way, I was like, these housewives are increasing my pain. They're putting me into so much stress. They're putting me into so much, it doesn't relieve my pain. And I need anything I can to get off of the pain right now. Like, I need to get less pain. And so I had to stop watching it. Oh my God, it was so hard to stop watching Housewives. I can't even tell you how hard it was. And then I was raised to be in that system. And so that was like the last thing I got off of, if that makes sense. And, so when he said that I'm a housewives guy, I was like, crap, can't say anything about that. And I was like, oh, that's great. And my husband, oh, it was just fantastic. He just came in like a wonderful soaring eagle. My came flying in and was like, oh, 90 Day Fiance. And I was like, yeah, how about that? Because 90 Day Fiance doesn't. They try, and then it doesn't get them as good of ratings, or people start attacking, and they have to try a different season and try not to have those people. It turns out that America doesn't, and so they have to keep switching to find. It's very interesting because try as they might to set it up, America is really not going that way. After the era of Trump, they're just like done with it, and it's very hard to find people that do that, because a lot of people have been on the other side of it's very interesting. So it's not as much going on, and it's really nice to see cultures outside of America. It gives so much more to talk about, and also understanding it with all the research we've done. Boy, is our group having a much different conversation than if we had watched it, 4 or 5 years ago, when we were just starting with our insiders, and we were just starting forum, when we started what you would call anything close to what I would call my insiders. Like when we just started kind of coagulating, everyone started friend of a friend and kind of starfish out. And then all of a sudden became this kind of community of ours. And, we wouldn't have that discussion. Everyone, if you really pay attention to travel vlogs of powerful people or famous people or popular people, because you can be very famous and popular and have no money, easy, right? But if they're international travelers, really pay attention. They don't see much. I did that. I remember when I was teaching, and I was doing a bunch of things. And then in between, I was doing competitive dancing and traveling. I didn't get to know any of those cities. Every city was just a different. When you name a city to me, I would think of the hotel. Like the hotels in Dallas are beautiful, and it even has some beautiful churches. I've seen the inside of those churches, and I got lucky with that. I haven't seen the churches of any other city that I can think of, actually. Only Texas. And why is that? Because my roommate at the time, she was Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, and I was like, why the heck are you still in? Why would you ever? And she was like, well, I think, and she wanted to go on Sunday. And I was just like, and she went every Sunday at every convention she ever went. And I was like, what are you, insane? Or whatever. And she's like, well, you just have to come see, especially in Texas. It has to be. And it turned out that there was like this whole walk of churches and all those I was like, I wasn't ready for that. So I got to see, like, I think the Presbyterian, is that what it's called? I can't, like, my husband knows, he wasn't there with me. I mean, it's this big, huge red Presbyterian. And so I remember after that, when I would do that convention, I would always go peek inside. I would always go peek inside that Presbyterian church. I'd always go peek inside. I'd try to do it in between services so I could see the big red. Because they don't do things like that in California. I don't know, maybe they do it in New York. No, I've seen New York, but in New York, I was getting sexually assaulted as I was trying to, like, visit, like, one of their cathedrals and see what it was like. I had just done Times Square, and it was like saying, no, that's right, I was getting assaulted, so I ran to St. Catherine's Cathedral, because I was like a church. It's so stupid. Like the pinnacle of places that do sexual. It worked. Let me get you right. Like, people who are trying to attack you do not want to go inside a big cathedral. It kind of sticks out when they're trying to grab you, whatever. So anyway, I don't know if that would work today, but anyway, so I learned to always wear pants in New York. Always cover your legs in New York. Cover your legs. That's a great thing that I learned. I cover this on another video. If you're a single woman and you're going out, we have our freedoms, but one of the things that helps you, it's not being a victim, it's just being smart, is that, you don't know how everyone was raised, especially now, more than half of our country have been raised in cultures where women are not respected, and you're seeing that reflected in the TV. Of how they're portraying women. They're openly sexually harassing, things that are against the law to do to women. They're openly doing on, like, major networks. openly doing it. And I'm like, oh, there have been movies about how we fought huge wars to get that outlawed in the workplace. And that's why, there's all these workrooms now that you see that women aren't in, including the UFC. Not many women working in the UFC. I saw one woman, she was actually, when I say working, I mean like outside, like the news broadcasters. Nope, not a lot of women sitting there talking. And even when they introduced women, not a lot of women that went ahead and did the UFC. There's a reason for that. There's a reason not a lot of women are sticking around in the UFC. Those men, like, nope. So I'm getting off on things. So anyway, so the guy said reality TV. We started talking about 90 Day Fiancé. And I was saying, yeah, but it's really bad because I keep stopping it to have a running commentary. He's like, but you have to, which made me feel better because it means that people who I don't know at all, who's raised on another East Coast or whatever, or another, like, was in a totally different, I don't know. I'm going to have to think how many of my friends were raised in an area like I am today. You know what I mean? So I was like, this was just a very different demographic. And they were like, no, gotta stop it. So that was really great feedback or whatever. But then we got onto something else, and he said this very interesting thing at 26. This is what I wanted to talk to you about today, and it took 26 minutes to get there, which tells you how the kid actually said, he's like, no, it's good. You're talking your thing, or he said something which kind of nailed it. I was just like, oh, you can tell, like, I'm in a house all day. Like, you can just tell, because I was just unable to stop. I was so active when I was healthier, part of so many different things. And it's kind of, when I slowly starts to come out, I'm just like, anyway, so he said something. So I said, we were talking about the different cultures, and I was saying, what do you think about the fact, this is something very interesting that he said to me. Hold on a minute. So there are two things that I thought were interesting. We'll see if it turns into just two. But one thing that he thought was very interesting was that I said, so tell me what you think about 90 Day Fiancé. Like, tell me what your thoughts are. Like, tell me what your impressions are, or something like that. Like, I want to hear what you think or something. And what he said was, oh, I said, do you think it's real, or something like that? Or something to the effect of, do you think it's real? Or maybe he brought it up. And he said the most fascinating thing, or maybe my husband asked her something. He said something that I was just like, are you serious? Maybe it's because of the things I know. But he said, oh, well, I think the matchups aren't real. I think what happens on the show is real. Like, everything we see on the show is real. But I think the matchups aren't real. Like, I don't think the people and who they're meeting are real. I think the show itself, though, is real. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I didn't say it that way, but I was like, I was in such shock, and no one in, that's one of the thing of like, all my people are way too connected. They know too many people. None of us think that. I guess we had some friends, but then we all talk too much to not be aware about how shows are made. If anyone new comes in that doesn't know, if we get some, every once in a while we get young people in, but they learn so fast. They learn how, when we're watching shows, they learn so fast. They school us too, don't get me wrong. Like, we get schooled on how certain things are too, which is fantastic. Like, on things with the new group. But how Hollywood works and how shows are written, that does not, no, that does not change. And I couldn't say, like, well, no, actually, no, this show did this, and this show did this, and this was actually this, and this was actually set up here, and this was actually... I can't say what I know and who I know, because that, again, I have to have this wall of, like, I don't know anything. I'm just a regular girl, like, I've learned to not even say that we're from California. I really try not even to say that anymore. I'm just like, we're new here, just from out of state. I try to just say out of state because it sticks out that we're not from here. Everyone knows we're way too far out in the country for they just like sticks out around us. So he says that, and I was like, really? You think the matchups are fake, but the setups are real? And I was like, yeah, no, I think it's the exact opposite. And he was not ready for that either. He was like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, have you ever noticed how much the show says certain things? Like, it'll say, like, I know that the show sends them, they want them to go to dinner, they want them to go do these things. The show is like, we need this scene, or we need B-roll, or we need this, we need you to do this. There's all these things the show wants because it wants a dramatic line. And so the show's like, we're coming on this day. Do you have an idea of what we're going to do on this day? And that's why you see some people, the other person, especially in 90 Day Fiancé, sitting there and they clearly think that day is going to be about one thing. Like, the crew is here, we're filming today, and we're going to be doing this. And then they're like, you want to talk about what? And the person's just like, yeah, I've decided we're going to do this today. And they just dive bomb them. And you can tell the producers were like aware, like they probably suggested it or something. And the person was like, I told you we're not going to be taught. And they get so upset. All of that is definitely producer led. Like, the producers will shove people in a certain way or ask questions in a certain way behind the scenes to create tension or to cause something to happen. So anyway, so in my opinion, everything that has happening in the scenes have all been set up or it's been edited so that it's not really realistic that you see. You and I both know that we don't live our lives where one person's in a room and the other person comes in and says, hey, and sits down and says, I'd like to have a talk about this today. Or, hey, we're going to go to a park. How often have you seen 90 Day Fiancé? And they just drive in their car and they go to a park and they just sit in the park and talk about something. Like, when's the last time you've done that with your loved one? Driven them to a park and sat them on a park bench and had a discussion about something. They do a great job of promoting, Democrats, like promoting, parks, or promoting this or promoting that, or having good scenery for their camera. They don't want to be in if they don't like the apartment, they put them here or they put them there or put them in a nice restaurant. Like, one guy took every advantage of the restaurant thing, was like, let's do it. Let's do the restaurant plug. I'll take her to a restaurant for every single thing. And he just did all the conversations at a restaurant. I was like, this guy is working the system big time. Fantastic. That's why he's always nice to the waiters, and the waiters were always so nice to them because they were pushing it was just, you could tell the producer knew what they were doing. They're like, go pump everything in town. Anyway, so, but I was like asking the guy, I was like, do you notice how the show is always pushing, the right reasons? I was like, the show puts all these things on the show. I was like, did we all take a vote about what the right reasons are? What are the right reasons for coming into this country? I was like, I know my level. I'm like, what are your jail history? And do you want to hurt anything? If you want to hurt us and do you have a criminal background? I'm like, now I've got a problem. I was like, other than that, I don't really have an issue, with anyone coming here. I don't see, what does that mean? What are the right reasons? I was like, I do feel like, and I told the guy this, I said, I do feel like this 90-day process that's around is very much setting up for human trafficking. I said, I very much feel like it's human trafficking. He's like, well, I can kind of see your thing. I said, well, think about it. If you think about the way they're approaching these people, they're approaching them like products. They're like, I know you want to get into America, so perform. You have to be up to this, or you have to be this size, and these guys can be the ickiest, or these women can be the ickiest, but they want what they're purchasing. Like I hate to say, because I actually told the guy, I think like Angela and Michaela are one of the more like realistic couples. I said, there's clearly something we don't know about that they share, but they clearly like care about each other. But there is a time where Angela's kind of like, I've paid my money. I should get and I'm like, because she's getting older and she wants help with the kids. And I know what it's like to be married now. And I'm like, her life will be easier with a man in the house. And she's kind of like, I paid my money, now I want to get my money's worth. And I'm like, ooh, bad choice of words. But if you really listen, you'll notice how often that happens. How Americans are just kind of like, they love, the reason they go elsewhere is because they now have the advantage. They're more desirable if they go outside the country, and they can demand more of that person. They could demand more, and they treat them more like a slave that has to perform. Dance, monkey, dance. So when they go to any other country, you'll notice that Americans are like, dance, monkey, what do you got for me? What do you got for me? And every once in a while, other countries are the exact same way. I mean, some of these countries, because they come from very different cultures, are very much like, you deserve to give me everything, and Americans are crap. And it's really hard to see the racism sometimes from other countries. And it's good that we know about it and discuss it or whatever. And I didn't say all this to the guy, of course, but it was interesting to see him say that, number one, that he thinks the setups of Across the Seas are created by the show. And then he said that he thought that what happens on the show is more real, but the setups are fake. And I'm like, no. This is really the decisions that people make. I know that as the show goes on, hold on. Okay, so I know that as the show goes on, the show has been having a harder time getting couples to go on it. Number one, because less people are doing the 90-day fiancé visa. I mean, it is really, that show has hurt the 90-day fiancé visa process. It has burst the bubble of the trafficking dream of, I'm purchasing a product. If people were really doing this 90-day fiancé process and being like, oh, I'm getting to know the person, it wouldn't have hurt the process, but they're not. They're thinking, I get to go online, I get to shop online and pick my picture, and then they have to act exactly like I want them to, because otherwise I get to send their butt back. And they're finding out, no, they watch this show, 90 Day Fiancé, and they're like, oh, no, my model can go bad. My purchase can go wrong. The picture is not a fair representation of what I may get. I may get a harpy. These people don't care. They don't seem to care that they don't seem to care that I can send them back. Some of them are like, oh yeah, you can send me back and I'm going to do that. They can make your life this. They can make your life that. And they're finding out that, oh no, I'm getting a human. That's what a lot of the show is. A lot of the show is people going, I'm going to get this thing in a catalog, and then, oh my God, I got a human being. That's so much in 90 Day Fiancé is, isn't it? I'm just like, oh gosh. And then you have the show at the end totally trying to form social opinion. They're like preachers. It's the pastors of the day, the religion of the day. 90 Day Fiancé has these Democrats behind it going, look, you are now going to view society this way. And I told the guy, I said, what are the right reasons? I said, until America, women had to go with an arranged marriage. America was the first place that ever was like, women, you can go do what you, first place to give women the right to own land before Israel. Israel had the women that could own land in the prophets and stuff like that. But that was long gone. And to this day, even outside of America, women usually cannot own land. Women usually have to, giving the right to vote is not really the right to vote. There's all these stipulations of the right to vote, right? Women are still, America has always been, the forefront of freedoms, right? But one of those freedoms is you can marry whoever you want. And then the show says, well, the only right reason is for love. And I'm like, no one's married for love in the 6,000 years of humanity. In fact, people don't even marry. Usually, what is this? It took a wife. You take a wife and then you agree to protect, but we've had polygamy. We have all these different sort of things, which never goes right, by the way, polygamy. Sometimes it does. Sometimes there's this whole, I've been studying the ancient text, and I'm like, okay, like, anyway, so we'll go into that. Like, for example, the 12 tribes of Israel wouldn't exist if he didn't take the wives that he did. But the wives that he did, he took, I believe some of them were because the God of heaven, and I'm kind of like, it's all coming down to, like, obey, like, we're all learning this kind of stuff. Like, there really is no side of conventions that the guy above will ask you to do. Like, it's just, it's very interesting. Anyway, I'll get into that later. So I was talking with this guy, and it was a very interesting conversation, and I was saying, yeah, I was like, really think about it. For forever, people have married for all these reasons, and suddenly this show is like, you can't marry for those reasons. Now that it's your independent choice, America, you have to marry by the rule of love. Like, love has to be your reason. And it's like, no, it doesn't. Nope, that's what freedom means. If it, for all of centuries, women have been traded for land, women have been traded for money, women have been traded for this. It's still happening today. It still happens in India, still happens in China, still happens all over the world. Islam, 55 countries. And the reason, there's all these different reasons to marry. Why is it bad that someone agrees to a marriage in order to save their life, practice their religion? For example, I think when Michael, hold on. In my opinion, the way that Michael acts, I really think he's probably had a conversion. It seems to me he's had a conversion to Christianity, most likely, considering he's with Angela. It seems to me him and Angela may share Christianity, possibly share Christianity. And in Islam, that'll put you in jail. I mean, he's in Nigeria, which is a Commonwealth country, which means the Queen owns them, and the Queen has mandated that Islam and these 5 tribes, so they will not have any immigration, so people can't immigrate into Nigeria, which makes sure that everybody's inbred. It makes sure that all the women have, did you see the strict rules of women and what they have to do in the home? That's all mandated by queens in England. England could undo that like that, but oh no, they put Islam and Sharia on them. And so, once again, just like it was under being a British colony, if you become a Christian, big problem. Because you have to follow, big problem. And so he and Angela, you can see he's desperate to get out of there. And that very may be part of why. And it may be something that they share. And they undershare is a love of, it seems to me a very big possibility that they share a love of maybe the same faith, the same God. They may worship the same God, the two of them. And that's very dangerous in Nigeria. Very, very dangerous in Nigeria. Is that the wrong reason? Is it wrong for him to go, look, I really want to have freedom of religion. I will go over and take care of your grandchildren and make sure that you, whatever illness you have or whatever, I'll make sure that you're taken care of, and I'll take care of your children if I get to have freedom of religion. I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. And the only thing, this whole thing of like, it has to be for love, the only people that benefits is international countries that use these people as slaves. Because all these people can come to America and have freedom. Why wouldn't everyone just transfer to America? And so they're like, unless it's for love. And I don't know why Americans are like, oh, you're taking our money. If they're willing to come here and work, great. That's the big thing. If they're willing to come here and work, great. It would be great if we could go ahead and say, do you have the same values as our founders? Wouldn't that be freaking fantastic? But, you know, no one teaches our founders anymore. But I hear that in immigration they do. They actually teach that. It'd be great if people who love the founders actually became immigration officials and made sure that the people coming in are actually aware of what the founding fathers want and to pay it to anyway. It would be nice. Anyway, so that was one of our conversations, was about this reality show, 90 Day Fiancé. And then somehow we were talking about culture. Then it shifted. So that was the first thing I thought was interesting, was that he thought it was opposite with 90 Day Fiancé, when I was like, no, honey. The next thing was that it may have even been, that may have, I don't know, it's very interesting. Then the next thing is, and the guy even said it, he was like, yeah, why is it wrong? What if it is trafficking? What if they do want to sell their bodies in order to get freedom? It's their body. Well, that's the problem. That's why traffickers don't like it, is because someone is saying, I want to give my body. And who says they're saying just by marriage they're going to have sex? Does that make sense? Like, who says that's what it's going to be? But there is a concern of, like, are you going to be picking this person in order to traffic them out? Like, there are reasons we have to be concerned and everything like that. But I think it'd be better if I don't know, there's all this, immigration's mute now that Biden's been elected. So that's a whole moot, like totally doesn't matter anymore. So that question's gone. This nation's kind of gone. So that's kind of a side thing. So the next thing is, or there's a civil war that's about to begin, but really it's to protect your home. That's your big thing. Are you able to protect when those gangs come that just came and did all those cities and they're ready to raid and pillage and take them? Now that they know that COVID's wiping out households, they're going to start realizing I can go ahead and rob these households of their money. When they start coming, are you ready to prepare to guard your home? Is your home going to be able to stand against the gangs that are coming? Because no one's covering it. They're not even reporting the correct. It's the swamp reporting the COVID numbers, and those numbers are when you drive around town, you realize what the real numbers are, and if you just do a little research into each town and the deaths in each town and research, like a newspaper reports it if a major official has died and if COVID was involved. Well, just those numbers alone, when you see that officials have died in like every freaking county, in every single state, when you start realizing that, you're like, this is not small. That's not a small number. Anyway, so if it's making headlines all over anyway. So then you move into the next part of our conversation, which I thought was fascinating, which was, he said, well, I think it's interesting what our culture teaches us. He goes, well, not just our headlines and our culture, but our government. And I was like, really? Our government teaches us things? And I was like, I can't, this is going to be an interesting one. And he says, well, our government teaches us about gender issues. And I was like, ding, 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 definitely new conversation. Like I would not have had that conversation with anyone. No one was talking to me about gender issues when, like, I was in the 42 states I've now done, and all the strangers I've met and all the cruises I've gone into, strangers, no one's ever been like, let's chat gender issues. This guy just dropped it, was like gender issues and what they teach us about gender issues. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I turned to him and I said, well, what do you think? Like, as in, like, well, what do you think I said, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think they do? I said, what do you think about that? And he goes, and he just suddenly stops and he leans in and he goes, I need to know what you're asking me right now. And I was like, and in my head, I'm thinking, you just told me that our government is teaching us gender issues. And I was like, I want to know what you think about, like, how they're teaching us that, like, what they're teaching us. Do you know what I mean? Like, how you've experienced that. Like, I just was kind of like, tell me more. And instead he goes, I need to know. He just gets quiet and he leans in and he goes, I need to know what you're really asking me. And I said, so all I said back was, what you think about our government teaching us gender roles? I was just like, what you think about the topic you just brought up? Like, and I was like, wow. Like, suddenly he had just gone into the personal lane. And I was like, oh, is there some kind of, like, gender role thing you're experiencing? Like, and I was like, it reminded me of a time that I went out and bought my husband a gift. I was able to do that, like, when I was doing the more moving out rather than trying to do small movements, moving every day. And I had gone out when I was doing that short summer, when I was doing drives. I didn't tell you guys this story, but I had gone out on a night, and I never did it again. I went out at night, And it's right in the downtown of my little town, my little liberal town, my little tiny town or whatever. And I just hopped, like, I parked in, like, the middle, and I just hopped on over, and I just bought the thing or whatever, and I came back, and as I was crossing the street, like, just crossing over, right in the town, every town and village have these cute little town center areas, right where they put the big Christmas tree or put the big festival or whatever. I mean, I was right there in the heart of this little town, like, middle Main Street America. And a woman was coming out the other way. And I was never aware that this happened before. But this woman comes. And when I was not aware that I do this. But from my experiences, from, getting 7 or 8 incidences by the time I was 18, a woman learns when a man is approaching on a dark street at night, you just widen up your distance. Like, if a man's approaching, like, I always learn that if a man is walking on my street towards me, I just cross the street. I just, if my husband's not around, you don't take chances. If a man's around, you don't take chances. I don't care if you have spray. I don't care whatever. I don't care if you think that he'll be offended. It will be more for him. Guys want to stay under the radar that are out for you. They'll be more offensive they will never come running after you. Like, that's not it. Usually things that you are trying to prevent are the things where they suddenly think, or they get near you, or they smell you, or they see you, and they think, oh, target, and it's a last minute thing for them, right? And you avoid that. But instinctively, I never realized this, but I don't do it with women. Like, I just, like, you don't naturally do it. Women are usually smaller. Like, I'm kind of tall, and so women are usually smaller than me. They're more diminutive or whatever. But also, like, men can just pin you, and usually you can, like, take a woman. Like, but I've never had a woman ever accost me ever. I've never had, okay, that's not true. I have had in the dance community, I have had the most amazing women who are LGBT, like they're gay, well, lesbian, whatever. We don't ever talk about these roles or whatever. It was just like, oh, she's with women and, she likes women and that's it. I mean, we just knew that they date women. That's it. I mean, it was not really a big thing before. It wasn't this huge gender roles, discussions or whatever. You just knew whatever. And so on the dance floor, they danced with women. They danced with men too, but they danced with women and they led women. And so, but I remember that there were specifically one woman that I danced with who was just the most incredible lead ever. Like, she's just possibly in my top 10 leads of all time. And wasn't a big competitor, but she was a woman. She understood that personal space or whatever. And so in dancing, you have to be careful where your hands are because you can easily brush up against things. You really have to be aware of body parts and where you're placing things because it's very easy to grab it. She was always aware. And I remember the only thing that was weird is that if we ever did any kind of super, super close hold or had to do anything, it was like chest to chest. That was the weirdest thing. But she never, ever, ever had that vibe of like trying to feel or do moves to do that. She always kind of tried to keep it so that there was air. Like she was always trying to prevent that. She would always kind of arch her back out so that there wasn't contact. And she is probably one of the greatest women that ever like helped me learn to fight for myself in my early days or whatever. And then there was another woman who liked women or whatever. And it was like being raped on the dance floor. She was violent. And her desire was naked. She was rough. And I was way too young. I was a teenager at that time. And I didn't, everybody was like, it's rude to say no. You learn, when you get any kind of background, you learn that no, it's actually stupid to say yes to everyone. That's the dumbest thing you could do. You're taking your body that you have to live with for the rest of your life and you're placing it in the hand of another person. You better be freaking sure that they're not going to break it. because they don't have to live with it for the rest of your life. You have to. So, it's one thing when you go out onto like a skating rink and those wheels can come out from underneath you. Well, then you went on a skating rink and, you're miscalculating. If you decide to let go of that wall and you just fall, it's different if you just say, yeah, when they're telling you can't say no to a guy. And these guys, you never know, some of these guys in dancing really go one of two ways. They tend to be super strong because they just tend to be tight and strong, or they tend to be super loose. And so you have to try to teach them to get to a middle ground. And every once in a while you find the people who are naturals and they're right in the middle and they have perfect leads. And this first girl was definitely one of those. Natural. Amazing to dance with. Like she could dance with me. Very few people can dance with me today with all my injuries. She could dance with me today. It would not be any problem. I wouldn't hurt. Does that make sense? I mean, when I could dance, like when I was dancing before, like it wouldn't be a problem. Like there were a few people I learned that I can say yes to dancing with these people. They will not hurt me. Like she would not do that when I'm able to dance. But this other woman, there are men who... No, I can't say anyone was ever that. There are two guys that did something dancing, but they were both drunk, like pinning you or doing things or whatever. But they were both, super drunk. But this girl, like, she knew exactly what she was doing. And I was so young. I was a teenager. And I would have said, I mean, today I'd be like, today I don't even think they'd ask, to be honest. So, cause I don't think, well, no, that's not true. That's not true. They'd ask. This person like really just wanted to dominate. And that's what I mean. It's just everyone's different. So, but for the most part, you don't fear women. Women don't fear women. And so I was walking down this dark street and this other lady was coming. And so I didn't move away. I was like, another person's coming, but it was a woman. And they got really close to me. And this was that summer. So it must have been, 2018, the summer of 2018. And so they got really close to me and they got right up to me and the guy went, hello, really deep. Scared the freaking crap out of me. And I just jumped. I mean, I had been confident. I was like, yes, I'm walking. I'm moving. I drove. I did this. I got to buy my husband a present. And I mean, it was like $5, but it was like, I got to do it. Does that make sense? It was like the world. It was like the world. And I was just happy. And so I was just like glowing and just tall and confident. And that guy dressed as a woman knew that women are more trusting and knew that if he dressed as a man, women stayed away. And I was never aware of it before. Hanukkah, I was never aware we did that because it scared me so bad. And I was like, oh my God, if I'd known that was a man, I would have been over here. I never would have let that person, because it was this crosswalk. And normally when you're on a crosswalk, he's going this way and I was going this way. Normally you stay on your other sides. And this person did it. This person stayed over here so that they can come right next to me. Now, sometimes women need to do that because they need to get over, like they're hurting or something or whatever. But it's a woman you don't really think about. You're like, okay, that's not a big deal. And like they're short. No. If it's a man, even if they're shorter, men, just go onto the internet and look up the skeletal system of a man and look up the skeletal system of a woman. And you'll understand why women move to the other side of the street. There's just no contest. There's no contest. Look up the skeleton of a man and the skeleton of a woman, and it will scare the crap out of you. Because they're always telling us woman power, woman power, woman power, woman power, woman power. You go, girl, boss lady. You go, girl, boss lady. And then you look up your skeleton versus a man's skeleton, and you're like, what the hell? I have toothpicks for bones. Toothpicks and hips that go out to here, which means, oh my gosh, if a man just goes bink, I'm done. It is so important that we have men who are taught to be gentlemen and women who give them respect so that they don't bust us and do crap like this. And I was like, and now I don't trust any woman on the street. They waited till it was dark and they waited. And I was just like, right at the time that they're bombarding us, this was 2018, right? So this was right when I was doing all those videos about, running whatever, doing clean the GOP. And I was just horrified because I was just like, I don't think of, like, I have worked with transgender people and they just never, ever, you don't notice. I haven't noticed. I'll just be working and I'll just be like, da, 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 and be like, hey, and it's just kind of like, oh, they like to wear lipstick, or, oh, they like to wear this, or they like to wear that. They like to do, it's just another person. It's just another guy. It's just another girl. So what? Like, if they want to wear an earring, if they want to wear if they want to wear a dress, who that freaking cares? Then from that day on, I cared. And I was just like, I hate this. I hate this thing. I hate this movement because it covers up for this. When you say that a group of people can do no wrong, this was right around when Jordan Peterson was fighting the LGBT community, like this power play, not the whole community, because the whole community is like, don't use us as a pawn. But people who are within the community who are sociopathic will love this when politicians go, you are worth more than everybody else in society. You should be fighting. The society doesn't think you're this. Then they feel like they want to do and take war on others. And they did. I've never had that happen in my life. And trust me, I have lived in some areas. And now I'm in frickin', small town USA, middle of the East Coast. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I've got like a giant clock sitting up next to me. I'm basically in Mayberry. And I'm like, I remember I was on the phone to my husband sobbing, and I was like, I can't go. It may have impeded my ability to drive again. I don't know, but I was like, the world is different. The world is different. The world is different when people are wearing costumes in order to scare you and accost you. Like, I was just like, if I had not been walking so fast, if I had not been so tall, but I didn't have any protective gear on me. Like, I didn't think I needed to. I was hopping from one side of the store to another, and this person made me perfectly clear, like, you're not safe. You're not safe, and I've got a problem with you, and it was basically going, boo. Oh my God, scared the crap out of me, and I just changed my whole worldview. That men were now using the costumes of women to get to us. And I was just like, it was really rough. It was a really rough night of just being like, things have changed. And so when this guy said, gender issues and what they teach us about gender roles, I was like, I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me what you have to say. I want to hear everything about it. And he's like, are you asking me? What are you asking me? And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm not asking you about anything. What is there an identity? I didn't want to know anything. And I was just like, oh, we're this touchy now. Okay, things have changed. Okay, things were that touchy when we talked to a stranger. Okay. Apparently, if someone brings up gender issues and you go, tell me more about that, their reaction will be, are you saying I'm gay? Maybe that's not what they're saying. They're saying, are you saying I'm not a girl? I mean, I don't know what they were saying. I was literally like, no, what do you think our government teaches you? And he was just like, oh, when I said that. And I said, look, no, like, we are like all these generations here. I said, look at this. And I said what generation each of us was, right? And I said where each of us had grown up, because this kid had already told us where he grew up, right? And he was like, and I was like, I think all of us, because of where we grew up and because of when we grew up, because every single change, for example, people who grew up before Facebook and after Facebook, very, very different upbringings, especially even in the schoolroom. I think every 5 years the schoolroom changes. I'm getting the feeling. And so I was literally like, I want to know what the government has taught you about gender. I know I've learned a lot, from this and this and this. I love knowing, like, what do you think? I was like, I can almost guarantee you and I have been taught very different things about gender. And he's like, why? What have you been taught? And I said, well, like like one thing I figured out, and I told him about how I feel like I've been taught my whole life, you go girl, you go girl, you go girl power, and then I have to just figure out when my husband, I said it was only this last year or something that I looked over and my husband carried in like 10 bags of groceries, and I realized I'll never be able to do that. I'll never be able to. I used to carry in a lot of bag of groceries, not what he's carrying. And now in the positions we're in, he's being pushed to his max. And the man is like, bong, gaga bong. Like my husband is like, bong, bong. Like sometimes he walks in the room in like, like his pajama top and jeans. And I'm like, be careful when you go out, honey. Like, I'm like, be careful. People are going to take pictures of you and pin it on their wall. Because he is just like, just working on the land and doing these things. He's looking mighty fine. Like, I mean, didn't marry him forcefully, but I mean, he was already mighty fine to begin with. But I mean, the guy's got like a model's body now, for reals now. And I'm just like, but I'm like, he still can do, even when he can still do more. It's his bone structure. I'm aware more than ever that it's his bone structure. We went through these accidents and he's lifting stuff and I'm like, shaking on the ground. And then you look at the two pictures and you realize why. And I told this guy this. I said, I was taught girls are everything. I said, go ahead and look at this one decade, this one playlist. I said, look at the 2000s when I was growing up. I was like, look at the 2000s on Amazon. And it will show you all female faces, Beyonce. And even in the room, as we were talking, while I literally was saying this to him, Pink is on. And I was like, Pink, listen to who this is. This is Pink. Pink is one of those people. Pink, who says you can do whatever you want. Britney was saying you can do whatever you want. Beyonce, you can do whatever you want. I said, there is not a man's picture in sight. Not a man's picture in sight. I was like, there's nothing for him. I grew up on this show for women, this show for women, this show for women, this show for women. He didn't get any of that. He didn't get any of that. I was told I could do anything. And I was like, and believe you me, like me and my woman who are great. I said, I was told I could have kids till I was 50. I was told they told me I could have kids till I'm 50. That was a lie. I had to find out that was a lie. No, you need to be starting having those kids at 18, man. 18, baby. 18, 19, 20, 21. If you really want to be like 25, then great. Be 25 and have 5 kids. But I'm serious, when this guy down in New Bern County, he and his wife, right, that's working for the Democrats, how many kids are they having? He and his wife had 10 kids. So they had 41 grandchildren and 28 great-grandchildren. So that family in the South, a Black Baptist family, has a family, one couple, a now empire of 81. And of course, he's got a royal crest on his chest that he wears everywhere. So New Bern County of PepsiCo is completely run by the royals. Prince Charles has got New Bern down. And I believe New Bern was New Bern is down. And it's changed a lot. Their property values have tanked, which means international buyers will come in and buy it all out. No one can buy land in New Bern since this 81-person empire, and now the guy's dead. Like, the election happened November 3rd, he helped the Democrats win with his 81 kids and grandkids, and what happened? Died November 4th. That's happening everywhere. All these Democrats are just dying everywhere. Very interesting. Reminds me of the plague in Revelation 16:2. I'm like, ooh. So, I didn't say any of that to the kid either, but I keep saying he's a kid. He's not a kid. It's just these are issues that I'm used to seeing only college students talking about. Like, I'm used to only seeing college students, and this guy isn't a college student by any means, but it is in his vocabulary, gender issues. And so, I was like, well, that is a big thing for me, and it is hitting me now that all of that, you can have kids whenever you want, you can do this whenever you want, you can do anything a man can do. That's not true. In reality, there's a reason they had women get married to men young or whatever, so that she's not getting assaulted, so that she has protection, so that on their land, that her land, when she's on her land, they own land together, that the land's protected, everything she fights for. I mean, there's this whole thing, and if you're, it's just a very, very, there's all these reasons these things happened, and so we were talking about that. And then the third thing that happened was, after that, I got up and then I was like, well, but I realize now, like, I suppose my bones could have gotten stronger because of the drugs that they have out now. And he was like, I was like, but that wasn't even a conversation remotely anyone was having. And he's like, yeah, that's the thing, is that we are talking about that. And I was like, yeah, that's not a conversation that was ever being had. Like, I didn't grow up with that. I was told I was like, even today, I was like, you can walk into a place and it says boss girl. It's like, there's nothing saying boss man. There's nothing saying that whatsoever. And so it was a very interesting thing to hear that come out, and the new things that are, it's a very, very fascinating. So anyway, that was my interaction. This is my slowly going out into seeing people. I feel like in some ways I'm starting to get the feeling like I'm really, as much as for example, I learned about Biden way more before they're telling me, right? So in some ways I have all this information. And in some ways, like, my insiders know so many, we get to talk about all these things, but I don't get to talk. I would love to believe everything that commenters say, but 1/3 of comments are, and probably more now, but 2 years ago, 1/3 of all commenters were fake. They were either from China or they were from, lobbyists. We learned a lot about lobbyists with the Hillary campaign. It's all people trying to sway public opinion, and then they're really censoring off anyone who's real. They're really making it hard for any kind of real conversation to happen, in comment sections. And so for me, it's always been on the ground. Like, I love talking to fans. That's different. I love talking to fans, and followers, but usually everyone just wants to say hello. I remember when I was in LA, I don't think I ever said hello to any celebrity that I saw, and really, I don't think I did it once. There were some that came up and talked. I'm talking about people that, like, I'd see, like, I remember I was at the Museum of Tolerance and Meryl Streep was there. Or, like, I was in one shopping mall and Melanie Griffith was there. And they were all retired. I don't think they were doing any films or anything, but I knew their work because I knew films or whatever. But I wasn't even, there was no interest in me in being like, oh, da, 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 da. It was just neat to see them in person. Like, Melanie Griffith was just, she was just sitting there. She just was holding, she's just walking along in a shopping mall. I mean, it's really nice shopping. It was awfully, like, the shopping mall in LA. It's like the 90210 shopping mall. But still, it was like, all right. And this is what I'm saying. Like, I learned very early on that just whatever you see on the screen and stuff like that, they're just real people. They're just people that you can talk to. I like talking to those. It makes me sad. It makes me sad in a way because they're so traveled. They know so much. They're very interesting people to talk to. Does that make sense? So a lot of insiders, they know a person, and that's a whole nother thing. And I'm getting tired or whatever. So, but I have always preferred meeting people on the street and talking to them. Like, I probably could have done it in the shoe store, but there are 3 people working that shoe store. And they were just like, yeah, those are the aisles for the shoes. And then they left. And I mean, they left me to do I had to go do all the getting of the shoes. It was not easy, let me tell you. And I was sitting there in a pink Snuggie struggling, and they just, all three of them just sat there behind the desk, and I was like, do you know what you're being paid to do? Do you know what that is? I know it's hard to go and do this, but that is what you're actually earning a paycheck for. I'm like, that's why this shoe is marked, what it is, because we have to come in and try on the shoes. It is, you guys are probably learning it. The older that you get, you will learn that shopping online for certain things are not, it's just not going to work. You got to go into a store. It's just not good. You got to go in a store because you want to make that purchase. You want to be done, and it's worth it, and just walk out and you're good. And yeah, so it's just, there are some things you have to do that with. There are some things like, obviously Snuggie, but even that, like the onesies you can just get online. But even that, I've had to figure out which ones they're not tall enough or whatever. Even that's been a thing. But shoes, you can't screw with shoes. You cannot screw with shoes. And I don't know. I always do. It really is like the slipper. Have you ever noticed when you go shoe buying with a partner or a friend? If you have your friend trying on the shoe and you're like, no, no, no. And then when it fits, when the shoe totally fits and it fits them and their personality and who they are and also fits well, they kind of shine. Have you ever noticed that? When a person puts on a shoe that really fits well and it's the one for them and it just makes them look like a whole person. Have you ever noticed they just kind of start shining? And I've learned now with shoe purchases, I have learned to just go, it's been a while, we've been together for a minute, so I have learned in my time shopping for him that just go, and when he gets something, when he puts on the shoe that makes him shine, I just start looking for him, for his whole body to relax and for him to kind of shine, and then I know, then I'm like, okay, that's the shoe. And on the way home, I was kind of because I had a friend call and they were like, how'd it go? And I was like, oh, we did this because I was supposed to be home and I wasn't home and I had stayed. And I was like, oh, I just went shoe shopping. It's too painful to drive. And so I walked, and that actually helped a bit. And, which was really, really good. But I was like, oh, I forgot what I was saying. I'm too tired. I should stop filming. Hold on. That's right. So on the way home, I was like, oh my gosh, it's kind of like Cinderella. Trying on the shoe, and then it's the shoe fits, and then it's they turn into a ball gown. They suddenly turn into the whole Cinderella story happens, when they get the right shoe that fits. It's oh, all the angels sing. So I thought, and I was like, I wonder why shoes are like that. And I think it's just because your foot has so many pressure points that you really need the right shoe. Otherwise, it hurts. It hurts, and you look all, you kind of your whole body's kind of screaming like a baby. And then you get the right shoe on, and you stand up, and it connects you with the center of the earth, And it just is song, you reconnected with the earth. What is it somebody said in Ben... Oh, gosh. Anyway, Ben, he said, the guy that doesn't wear any shoes or whatever, the wrestler from the UFC, he says that he would go 9 days without wearing any shoes. They call it earthing. I'm sure earthing has a bunch of stuff in it that's not good, and then some things that are, and one of it is wearing bare feet so that you can feel the earth. I do think there's reasons you wear shoes. For heaven's sakes, it's really forwarded to humanity, the fact that you can wear shoes. Look at what we've been able to build. But it is also important that you're able to walk in the grass. That's a skill you need to have. You do need, and people don't do it because they're uncomfortable with feeling the earth. When you walk with bare feet, you feel the earth. And you're suddenly aware that it's bigger than you. It's not that it's to worship you, but it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you, and that you can, use it and platform off of it and stuff like that. It's a very, very, it's kind of, actually, doesn't it say in the things that we've been studying that man is made from the earth? It's good to feel what you came from. It's how powerful and we really, I always think of UFC as eating up and spitting out. I feel like the MMA, and even boxing's in some respects, but not as much, but MMA is really designed to take, the best men, the best leaders, the best of us, these Catholic kids who have just been taught that they have to feel pain in order to be holy. That's what Catholicism is. It says, be a slave or you're not holy. To be a good kid, you have to slave and suffer and feel pain. And so they go into the UFC. Holly Holmes was Catholic. Ronda Rousey, Catholic. Sonnen, Catholic. What's his name? Conor McGregor, Catholic. Dana White, Catholic. So you're either a bookie or you're one of the slaves, right? That are doing the fights. You're either fixing the fights or you're working the fights and making money for the guys above, for the families above. And it's really sad because the guys who end up doing well in this sport are the lead. They could change nations. They could change nations. They can change the world. And instead, the UFC looks for those people and puts them in a ring so that they'll get concussed out of their mind and die by the age of 35 to 50, so that they'll be having a, bag attached at their... You don't see these guys between fights. You have no... That's why when they're like, oh, we need a fill-in, Dana White's like, I can't find anyone. They're all healing. They're all in bad shape. Very few of them are like, woohoo. Like, you see them partying when they're young, but a lot of these guys, the older that they get, they don't exactly have, like, those great award shows anymore where they're, like, give a big award and, like, because they don't want you to see them how they move normally. You can put them in the suit, but if you actually watch these guys walk around in a suit, you'll notice they don't walk so good. There's a reason for that. You knock around the head, they're not going to walk so good. You should find out how many meds these people are on to still function. So... it's just not pretty, and they chew them up and spit them out. And so these men are not aware of how much they can do. And so once you put your feet on your ground, it should give you a better idea of how strong you are. Certainly these illnesses, these things that come against me and my husband, we have truly found how able we are. I'm realizing that's what a lot of celebrities or a lot of the people that I know, they found out how powerful they can be. Some of them are great slaves, like celebrities, a lot of... Well, people who act are very selfless. I'm just going to keep on talking already. And I've gone way past the actual dental chair and the guy I met. So it was really good. Now I'm on the, believe, an hour and 20 minutes. That is like literally the longest video I've ever met. I'm pretty sure an hour and 20 minutes is the longest I've ever done. I hope you found it interesting. So I am getting out there and I am talking, and it's just been interesting and new conversations. Very different conversations, not unlike, and then at the end of it all, it was really funny. Something came up and I was like, oh yeah, because I do Twitter and I was too tired. That's after it was a huge appointment or whatever. And he's like, oh, you do the Twitter? I said, yeah. And he says, yeah, I do the Twitter too. I'm on the Twitter all the time. And I was like, yeah, they say no one's on Twitter. And I was like, no, everybody's on Twitter. He goes, everybody's on Twitter. He's like, everyone's on Twitter. I was like, yeah, everyone's on Twitter because Twitter is writing. Twitter is writing, and they don't want us on that. They want us on Instagram. They don't want us writing. And writing is the most powerful thing. It's what created the Constitution. It's what created independence. And writing has always changed humanity. Writing has always changed humanity and set men free. And that scares the powers above more than anything. So, Twitter is a very, very powerful thing. So, people say, why don't people move on to other platforms? And it's like, it's going to be very, very interesting. It'll be exciting if that ever does happen, a platform that allows the kind of, it's going to be very, very interesting. Hopefully that's coming, but I don't know. We will see. We'll see what the future holds. So anyway, that's it for now. I love you so much. I have dinner, and, thanks for sitting with me upside down. See, I was able to talk for an hour and 23 minutes just fine because I am on my back with this lovely new kind of pillow. Tambiers keeps stealing it from me. It has a hole in it. One of my trainer friends thought that this would be great for me, and it's actually really great for me. Instead of that big circle pillow I had in my pillow, this one's a different one. This one has a little blank space right here. And then it's a square like this. It's been working really great, except little Peanut over here, now that he's shaved, he loves sleeping right here. So I never get the pillow. It's like I keep coming, and he's just like, he fits right there now. With all of his fur shaved off, he like fits right there. And it's too cute to move. But anyway, so Luckily, he wasn't on it at the moment, and so I got to use it for this video. But usually this is where I'm laying. It's very comfortable for my spine, depending on the surface that I'm on. And then I'm waiting to making sure I'm in the best position in order to do more things. So slowly but surely, I am doing more things like the OT and PT, as the medical plan has been giving me all year. And so things are progressing. So I do get to, like, I've even started scooping out the cat litter again. I had to stop that for like a year, the cat litter. And I've even been doing that again. And that's been a big deal. I don't have an episode after doing that. That was like a big thing. Scooping cat litter isn't as easy as you think. Well, not with the cats I've got. So I had to give that up for like a year. And I've started even adding that back in every now and then. So little things, little functional things, lifestyle functional things are coming back in. So there are good things happening. Anyway, nothing that I would tell my dentist about, though. And so I think this is my third time saying goodbye. So that's about the time that in Book of Katherine tradition, I actually go away. All right. Love you guys so much. Mwah. Bye.